Hello ladies and gentlemen, we are already in the middle of 2024. It's actually kind of crazy because this year just happened. I remember being in Utah when New Year hit, and now I'm in my room talking about Rubik's Cubes on, what is it? The 24th of June. Like, that's crazy. So, as of 2024, let's go over my favorite speed cubes. And this is not only limited to 3x3, I'm also going to go over my favorite 4x4, 5x5, not 6 and 7x7 because I don't use those events, or Megaminx, Clock, and Scube. I'm also going to go over 2x2 because I've gotten into 2x2 this year and I think I've gotten pretty solid at it. At least I get times consistently on 2x2. Without further ado, here are my favorite speed cubes, starting from least to most favorite as of 2024. As you can see, I very neatly laid down all the Rubik's Cubes that I'm going to be talking about today. So let's start with 5x5. Up first is the X-Man Whong 5x5. Now, I do not have the GAN 5x5. I don't really know if I'm going to get it, but I'm not really a 5x5 specialist. I love the Whong because of the way it felt out of the box, and I guess it was the first cube with a ball core and UV coating that really hooked my attention. This cube is by far so fantastic. It is so great that even if the GAN one is better, you could still perform well with this. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is the world record-setting 5x5. Really, I love X-Man cubes in general. This 5x5 is smaller than the GAN and smaller than the MGC, which I think works better with bigger cubes, as I think with my smaller hands, it's easier for me to turn whichever layers I want. Like, if I want to turn this layer, right, it's very easy for me to do. I could probably even do it with one hand, but with the MGC, I really struggled with this. Thankfully, this is much smaller in height, so it makes 5x5 actually much more fun and bearable. Furthermore, because of the smaller size, it's easier for me to see pieces. So my recognition is better and my time has dropped by 2 minutes since switching to this cube. Overall, this cube is really, really good. And I still recommend it over the GAN. Granted, I haven't tried the GAN, but as far as I know, this is cheaper with the same specs. I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer. Now, for 4x4, I have the VinCube 4x4, not the UV coated version, because I barely tolerate UV coating on the 3x3. The VinCube, I have a lot to say, kind of what I said about the MGC a while back, but this cube just does a lot better, a lot more correctly. First of all, this cube is more tactile. 3x3 stage feels a lot more better, and the cube in general just feels a lot more easy to control. Because of its tactility, I kind of smoother in a sense. And it kind of added a blockiness feel to a 4x4, which I thought not to be possible. Because the MGC's is so smooth and solid, I never thought that this cube could live up to its expectations. And I know a lot of people have to say that this cube is very similar and is almost a clone to the MGC. I think it's not, because if you blindfold someone, right, and you give them this cube and you give them an MGC, they're probably going to be able to tell each other apart. Overall, the VinCube is great. It is an absolutely amazing 5x5. It costs exactly the same as the MGC, and it comes with better accessories. It comes with this nice feeling bag. I'm not sure what material is this, cloth? And it comes with this hefty screwdriver. I remember the last time there was a hefty screwdriver like this. That was in the Tornado V2. Furthermore, this cube got me my first sub 1 minute solve on 4x4. So I kind of have that bias towards it. And this cube is just overall fantastic. I would recommend this over the MGC. And you see, the MGC was versing the Alfu WRM. I'm pretty sure that's the Moyu 4x4. And the Moyu 4x4 was better in size. It was smaller, however, cost twice as much, which is why people were hesitant on buying it when it's the same performance, but all you're getting is a smaller cube by, I think, 2 or 3 millimeters for twice the price. I don't think any reasonable person would spend $50 on a 4x4 when they can spend $20 on the MGC. So that's why I think this cube, feeling similar but better to the MGC at the same cost with the option for UV coating before MGC remade their 4x4 with UV coating, just made this cube so much more better and so much more desirable. And I think me switching to it was such a good decision because this cube does feel better than the MGC. Again, this cube is great. I love this 4x4. For 2x2, bit of a controversial one. It is the GAN 251 M Leap. Now, I know a lot of people are about to tell me that the Pro is better. And in their defense, I have used the Pro, and I have had less lockups with the GAN 251M Pro than I have with the Leap. But whenever I use the Leap well, I get almost no lockups, and I get really fast times. I think the GAN 2x2s are probably my favorites because they do not follow the conventions of a regular 2x2. Most 2x2s are built very similar. You can tell from the MGC, the RS2M, those cubes are relatively similar. I decided to make the 2x2s feel more like a 3x3. And because 3x3 is such a loved event by the community, it was almost a no-brainer that the GAN 251M Pro sold really well, and why a lot of competitors, especially good solvers, use this cube. I mean, it's the world record-setting 2x2, I'm pretty sure. Whong broke the 2x2 world record with it, and now I'm about to quit 2x2. But I love this cube for a couple more reasons. First of all, it is UV coated. I did not realize how good UV coating would be on a 2x2. You don't know how many times I've tried using the RS2M and then it just slips out of my hands. One, because it's too fast, and two, because there's no UV coating on it. The cube is not fast. You can actually control it really well. And because of the plastic, it takes lube in very well and makes it pretty much kick in the moment you put it in. I also love the tensioning system on this cube. Yes, it's on the GAN 251M Pro, but in general, you see this? That's the hex nut system. Each of these nut systems has a screw in it, but all of these screws are set to the same tension. So there is same tensions across the whole cube. And with regular 2x2s, the factory settings also aren't even. So you kind of have to play hit or miss with what your tension is going to be, or you take all the screws out and restart the tension, which is what I did with my MGC 2x2 when I used to made it. But overall, this cube is great. My average decreased by 2 seconds when I switched to it. I absolutely love this cube. And who knows, maybe I might switch to the Pro. I'm not sure yet, but so far the Leap is doing me nice. Now before we get into 3x3, I do have some honorable mentions. First off was one of my first cubes ever, the GAN 13 maglev. I love this cube. I will never stop loving this cube. Even though it's not my favorite GAN cube anymore. The GAN 13 and I have had some great times. This is the first cube I ever got sub 20 with. This is the first cube I ever got a sub 20 average. This is the first cube I learned how to do full PLL. This is the first cube how I learned how to do so many things that just makes me feel so nostalgic towards it. And to be honest, I'm not really sure why people saying the 14 is better, because this cube is just so well designed. Considering the amount of stuff that's in this cube, I'm surprised that they made it relatively controllable, and whatever lube you put in won't just eat it up completely like the 14 does. Overall, I love this cube. It is so nostalgic to me. Unfortunately, it pains me to say, but this cube is not really that viable in competition. You could use any other newer speed cube that came out for cheaper with better performance, or you could use the GAN 12 or even the GAN 11 to an extent. I love this cube, but unfortunately, it almost made the list. That's why it deserves an honorable mention. For our second and final honorable mention, I am so sorry, but it has to be the Whong M Pro. The Dian, I have a love-hate relationship with this cube. I love the way this cube feels and turns. It was the best out-of-the-box experience I've ever felt. It was my first and only Dian cube. I loved the way this turns, and I got some really decent times with it. However, this cube gives you a reward for turning well. But it always just messed me up. Whenever I had a lockup on this cube, I always had to restart a section. Plus the plastic, I'm not sure what type of plastic this is. It's kind of a mix between frosted and UV coating, which gives it kind of a weird texture, which kind of the Tornado V3 has. I'm not really sure what it's called, but it does have a weird feel. So I would either do really good or really bad on this cube. I couldn't really find a good balance between it, and that's why I don't really use it all that much. But don't let my performance hinder you buying it. I think the Dian Whong M Pro is still one of the best Dian cubes and arguably one of the best cubes on the market still. I also want to go over why I love this cube and why it would have made it on the list. The hand adjustment system. This was so easy to use. All you have to do is just blah blah blah, and then it is perfect. And there are two versions with springs and maglev, and even the maglev does not feel fast at all. And I love this cube so much because it's so natural feeling. It's not like the WMV9 where it feels like very mechanical. This cube feels very natural, and that's why I love it. But unfortunately, it didn't make the list simply because of my love-hate relationship with it. I guess it could be on it if I just solved better, but but this cube does not get a spot on my list. Now, we get to the 3x3s that are actually on the list. Starting with the Super RS3M. The Super RS3M is my favorite budget cube, without question, without a doubt. I love the blockiness of this cube. I love blocky cubes. To be honest, I would prefer blocky cubes over the looser cubes like the V5, except the V5 performs really, really well, so that's why I made it. A lot of people might be asking why not the RS3M 2020, it is just as blocky. Well, one, I don't really like the RS3M 2020. I tried to like it because it is one of the most loved and respected cubes amongst the community. But its one, mediocre magnet strength really, really sucks and leads to a lot of turning inaccuracies for me. Especially because I'm such a rough turner, and inaccurate turner for that matter. I tend to lock up on that cube, ironically, quite a lot. This cube, I lack this issue because of the increased magnet strength, so I'm able to feel every click and I'm able to rotate every time with almost perfect accuracy. This used to be my one-hand main at some point when I tried practicing it, simply because of how smooth this cube turns, as well as it being so stable and reliable. And, I mean, come on guys, look at this. The adjustment system is purple. But yeah, back to reality, this cube is awesome. It is very tactile, it's very blocky, which I like, but it does not sacrifice corner cutting. I think corner cutting is one of the best qualities of this cube. Look at this, 45 degrees, like butter! This cube is great, it is absolutely phenomenal. I still would recommend it over the V5 standard or any other budget cube that has been released prior. Get this one, and it actually has flagship performance, which is just great. Next up, my first ever speed cube, the GAN 356M. The GAN 356M is one of the smoothest and most natural feeling GAN cubes on the market. I love this cube so much, it is absolutely my favorite GAN cube. Although I don't perform well on it, I think it has some of the most redeeming qualities. It has black internals in contrast with its very natural color selection. No other cube in my collection has a color scheme resemblant of this. All the colors are so vibrant and are so nice and are projected so very well, kind of like a good smelling cologne projects very well. This cube is absolutely phenomenal. I love it and I used to main it even after expanding my collection to what it was. I still get really good times on this cube. It is my favorite GAN 356 and to be honest, it's just a solid puzzle. Unfortunately, it's not really worth it anymore considering you can get other better cubes for cheaper and with better features. But this cube will always have a place in my heart as one of my best speed cubes and one of my favorites of all time. On the topic of GAN cubes, next we have the GAN 11M Pro. The GAN 11M Pro is not my favorite GAN cube, but is the one I perform best at. I love the feeling of this cube because it feels almost as natural as the GAN 356M. I also kind of love the way this cube sounds. I mean, that could just be like a little fetish of mine. It just feels oh so good. The adjustment system is really unique, and that tool is really easy to use and kind of inspired the GAN 12 system. I love how there are only 3 magnet strengths you can choose from. I know it's a bit controversial compared to now, like 12 magnet strengths with 14 that you can choose, but this makes it so easy and all 3 of these strengths are good. Though I don't recommend the strongest, medium is still good, and even the weakest magnet strength is stronger than the RS3M 2020s, which I really appreciate and value. Not really sure what about this cube I like else, but the fact that this cube just performs really well whenever I use it. I absolutely adore this cube, and it is pretty affordable. Do I recommend getting this cube? Absolutely. I perform really well on it, and it is just so good. Next up is the YS3M. Number 1, listen to this. Tell me that does not sound like a creamy keyboard. I absolutely love the way this cube sounds, and it is just so good. I love this cube because it is the most stable cube I have. Never have I had a lockup on this cube that severely hindered my solve. Even compared to my current main, I've had more lockups on my current main than when I used to main this one. It is just so controllable. And even at a tighter setting, the corner cutting is just absolutely outstanding. Now this is where I start getting into deep waters. Because this cube is built so very similar to the RS3M, how come I love this cube and not the RS3M 2020 even though these are almost identically built? I just think this cube in general is more stable than the RS3M, and plus the stronger magnet strength really compensates for the RS3M's weak ones. This cube is just absolutely great. It is the most stable cube, and I love it solely for that reason. And there's no extra shit. There's no edge magnets. There's no nothing that can make this cube feel unnatural and mechanical. Speaking of, this cube feels really, really natural. And its smooth feeling combined with its stability just makes it one of my favorites and the perfect recipe for success. That's why I absolutely love this cube, and I will keep on adoring it. Unfortunately, I have moved on to better cubes, but this will always have a place in my heart. Now, we have the Super Whalong. You know, all the Moyu cubes are starting to look the same, so I'm starting to label my cube boxes now. Oh, that's upside down. I'm starting to label my cube boxes now because I cannot tell which is which. The feel of the Super Whalong. It was the first cube to introduce the 20 magnet ball core gimmick, which I think has been revised where the Whalong V10 now has it, and it does not feel like a gimmick anymore, and it actually adds a lot of improvement and benefits to the cube. Originally a lot more than I thought. The Super Whalong, it is one of my favorite Whalongs. I think it's better than the Whalong V9, and I'm not really sure why I like it, to be completely honest. I think it's just the way it turns, which I just absolutely love. Apparently this cube is also used for blind. I know a lot of Moyu sponsorees now start using this cube for blind, which is just kind of crazy. And I also love the box that it came in. I still keep this box with me on that little drawer. I don't know if it ever appeared in videos in the background, but I still keep it with me because it is just so awesome. And then you take it out and oh my god, here it is. And then you open this box. It's like royalty. And look, you get all its gimmicks too on the top, and you get a cool set of cards, and you get your watch straps, and you get the toolbox. This is all so cool. And look at the back of it. This looks sick as hell. But outside of the box, the performance of this cube is absolutely phenomenal. I've had great experiences with it, and actually relative to the WRMV9 20 magnet ball core, this was actually easy to set up. It was the same speed, but it does not eat your lube like the Whalong V9 20 magnet ball core does, which I really, really appreciate, and this actually made me use this cube on a regular basis. Overall, this cube is absolutely fantastic. But now we're gonna get into the top 3. In 3rd place, drum roll please, is the Tornado V3 / YoCube Deluxe V2. It was the longest. I've made this cube for a year. Ever since I've made that one video talking about it, which actually did really good and boosted my channel a lot. This cube was absolutely great. Oh my god, I love turning it. When I got my new YoCube 2, I was really considering switching to main it. But for a while, I did not switch because this cube just felt so good. Let's talk about some of the benefits. First of all, this cube is a Tornado V3. The Tornado V3 is one of the best and most well-liked cubes of all time. It is the current world record setting 3x3, and the way it feels is so unique and so well compared to other cubes. Its adjustment system is absolutely phenomenal. It is a hand adjustment system in which you simply just pull this little lever, and then you twist clockwise to adjust tension, counterclockwise to adjust elasticity, and that's it. Just pop it back, and then put the center cap back on. That is so easy, and you can do that for all the sides. Unfortunately, the magnet strength is on the edges, so you do have to adjust 24 edges, but that makes up for it because the magnet strength on the pieces do not need to be adjusted. This cube's magnet strength was so good, even at a weaker setting and a thicker lube combo like with weight 5. This cube just feels so good, and you can barely even notice the weak magnet strength because it is so useful and so noticeable. Furthermore, the feel of the Tornado V3 is just outstanding. Everyone loves it, and even me, a relatively controversial cuber with my opinions on Rubik's cubes, love the feeling of the Tornado V3. I've tried to like the Pioneer, but the Pioneer sucks ass. Like, at the number 2 spot, you can tell I'm opening the box like this because it's a Moyu cube. It is the Whalong V10. The Whalong V10 has quickly grown on me to be one of my favorite cubes of all time. People have been complaining that this cube is too tight, and I can agree. This is what it's like on the loosest setting. So I have found the strategy to make this cube actually good. You make everything to 1. Loosest setting, or loosest tensions, loosest elasticity, partner that with the angstrom combo, and this is almost the perfect Rubik's cube. I think they nailed the 20 magnet ball core with this, and not made it so much as a gimmick, but rather something that actually adds meaningful impact to the cube. Topped with a really tactile and great feel, makes this cube one of the best of all time. I absolutely love this cube, and this will become my secondary. But now we get into the best speed cube of all time. My personal favorite, the GOAT of speed cubing. The absolute rock star of speed. Hold on, I'm just trying to find which cube I'm looking for. The Yoku 2. On my video unboxing this cube, a lot of people have had mixed opinions. This cube was either too fast or too loose or not good at all because it's an RS3MV5. But I think this cube is the best of all time for several reasons, and let me give you those reasons right now. The base cube is an RS3MV5. The RS3MV5 is one of the best cubes ever. You can literally set it up with anything and the cube will feel great. Plus, it already comes out pretty tight, so you don't have to go to drastic measures to make the cube feel, I guess, controllable, because out of the box it's already pretty controllable. Second of all, the cube is kind of an all-rounder. A lot of people use it for one hand, as I do. A lot of people use it for blind, apparently. A lot of people use it as just regular two-handed. The RS3MV5 is the best cube when it comes to versatility, and I think that's why you pair it with a new revised Yo-Cube combo, which actually replaces Weight 5 with FZ Rush, making this cube feel even better. Just makes this legitimately the definition of perfection. Now we get into the Yo-Cube part. This cube is set up to be pretty loose, but with a combo that kind of compensates for it. Its 45-degree corner cutting is the best. Watch, here's 45 degrees, and here's me applying like no effort. Here's reverse corner cutting, line to line, and here's me also applying no effort. Like butter. I have absolutely no words for this cube. It is beyond my favorite. It is my current main. I've gotten 3 sub 10 solves with this cube, and it is just, oh my god, it is just so perfect. And I think I'm still in denial on this one, but I have to admit that this cube is better than the 20W3 in these aspects, which is why this cube is my #1 favorite cube, most recommended, and most sexy cube. Because look at this. I mean, it has blue internals, for crying out loud. Anyway, these are my top favorite cubes of all time. If you think otherwise, let me know in the comments. I would be more than happy to read them. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!